Very few travellers using the busy Sussex path that runs along the saddle of land between Lancing Ring and Steep Down realise they are walking through the centre of a once sacred site constructed shortly after the Roman conquest. Here we are looking down upon the exact location where the Romano British temple once stood. Built in the 1st century, this religious building was in use for maybe 300 years, but before that an Iron Age shrine occupied the site for an unknown period. Today nothing remains above ground to indicate what once stood here. However, below ground the footings for this ancient building remain, and in 2014 evidence was just visible in the middle of the path. In today's talk we are looking at the evidence regarding the 1828 discovery of the temple remains. My research on the subject started in 2014, since when I've collected a great deal of information, far too much for a short presentation. Consequently, I'm only including the more interesting bits here. This plan view of the location has a dimensionally correct outline of the foundations positioned exactly where the temple once stood. Unfortunately, the 1998 hedge planting removed a good deal of the temple footing material, but enough mortared flint remains to confirm the exact building location. Measurements on the ground show this representation to be accurate to within plus or minus 100 millimeters in both dimension and position. The magic of computer software allows us to create a virtual 3D image of what the building may have looked like. The remaining footprint tells us something about the style of building. Other, better preserved structures and drawings provide sufficient information to produce this view. The Legionnaire provides an idea of scale. This video clip shows where the temple sat in the landscape. It begins looking towards Steep Down and ends with a view of the local coastline. The foundation remains are located here. Curiously, the temple is not at the highest point on Lancing Down. The top of Lancing Ring, some 170 metres to the southeast, is 6 metres higher, at 110 metres above sea level. It appears the temple was located here because a small Iron Age shrine already occupied the site. The obvious question is, why was the shrine built here in the first place? The temple remains were discovered on Good Friday, April the 4th, 1828, by James Medurst, a Brighton wood-turner and local antiquarian. The site was occupied by a large mound which Medurst supposed might contain a burial and possible grave goods. On removing the earth, he discovered a gallery about 40 feet square with a tessellated pavement about 16 feet square in its centre. Scattered around were a variety of Roman coins, ornaments, vases and rings, as well as many human bones. Thrilled by his discovery, Medurst realised he could make some extra money from his hobby by opening up the Roman temple as a tourist attraction. A flyer was produced advertising the site and informing visitors of the admission charge. adults 1 shilling and children 6 pence. In 1828 the price of a £4 loaf of bread was 11 pence. The flyer can be seen in Worthing Museum. Medhurst's own description of the finds is held by Worthing Museum. An interesting section of his document reads as follows. In the centre of the room were ashes. In these were found 25 pieces of coin of ancient British, Roman and Saxon. At the side of the building 12 pieces of silver coin, there not being two alike. These coins are all perfect, likewise brooches, bracelets, combs, rings, beads, styles, fibula, tips of swords, arrow tips, buckles, also graves which contain pottery with the ashes of the dead, rings, brooches, etc. This interesting painting is kindly provided by James Sainsbury of Worthing Museum. It shows the temple ruins plus the little hut Medhurst constructed. One visitor, a John Dockwra, Parry, described the site on Lancing Down. We are disposed to speak well of the show, in order to serve the honest and patient man who has discovered and preserves it. But a curious effect has the red and white flag which the honest man has stuck up on the hill, with the inscription Roman pavement in large characters. He also erected a neat species of hut to receive visitors and enclosed the ground in neat style. Both he and his son evince a gratifying intelligence and a wish to please. This text was taken from J.P. Parry, a historical and descriptive account of the coast of Sussex, 1833. I have annotated this drawing with my descriptions. The viewing platform would have allowed visitors to look down on the ruins to gain a better view of things. This text is taken from the Morning Post, Saturday the 1st November 1828. The Roman pavement on Lancing Down near Worthing continues to attract a vast number of fashionables. To those who seek for mere amusement, these remains cannot fail of yielding a few hours' pleasure. To the antiquary, they are a mine of wealth. One of the fashionables interested in Medhurst's work was Princess Augusta Sophia, who visited him twice. She was the second daughter of George III. She spent most of 1828 and early 1829 in Brighton, staying in the Royal Pavilion, and in November 1829 she moved to Trafalgar House, Worthing, where the town was lit up with candles made of mutton fat in her honour. That was taken from Brighton Gazette, Thursday 29th of September 1831. Medhurst received little recognition for his work until an account of the temple excavation appeared in a reputable scholarly work. In 1848, an account of the temple excavation appeared in the extraordinarily titled Collectanea Antiquia, Etchings and Notices of Ancient Remains Illustrative of the Habits, Customs and History of Past Ages by Charles Roach Smith. Smith was a Fellow of the Society of Antiquaries of London and of the London Numismatic Society. He pioneered the statistical study of Roman coin hoards. Here is an extract from Smith's book. The wall of the building is about 2 feet thick and level with the ground except in places where it rises a foot or so above it. It has been plastered and coloured red. To this room, which is about 16 feet square, there appears to have been attached externally a gallery 6 feet wide. In the floor was noticed an oval sinking 6 inches deep, the sides, like those of the wall, plastered and coloured red. The floors of both are formed of small oblong squares, stones, apparently Kentish rag, about 1 inch square, laid in mortar upon a bed of flints in an irregular manner, without pattern or regular design. On the south side of the building, the pavement was taken up, and the ground beneath excavated to the depth of 6 feet. It consisted of 6 alternate layers of burnt bones and flints, laid in mortar, which appeared to be composed of chalk, lime and sea sand. The building, previous to its being excavated, presented the appearance of a barrow of considerable size. Its extent is denoted by the faintly dotted line in the sketch. Upon the floor were ashes and rubbish, suggestive of the place having been destroyed by fire, and among the ashes bones and teeth of animals, boar's tusks, together with 5 and 20 Roman coins, and one believed to be Gaulish or British. They are of Claudius Nero, Vespasian, Hadrian, Pius, Faustina, Aurelius, Commodus, and Gallienus. This drawing is part plan view and partly a record of the artifacts found. The items are identified by number. Number 1 is a ring of iron, part of a metal dagger, and some burnt bones. 2 is a bath lined with hewn chalk 2 feet deep and 4 feet and a half in diameter. An extremely curious brooch represented in figure D was found on the edge. 3 and 4 contained some burnt bones and a fibula. 5 is some burnt bones and an elegant fibula represented in the annexed plate, figure C. The semi-diamond portions are similar to steel and is in very good preservation. 6 and 7 contained a small earthen vase, burnt bones, and 2 lacrimatories. 8 and 9 produced burnt bones and a comb. 10. This was by far the largest interment opened, and amply repaid the trouble. Under the head of a skeleton were the bones of a fowl, and on the breast a curious fibula representing a cock. Figure B. It is of gold, enamelled with red and green, and has a singular appearance. 11 and 12 contained rings of wire, bone combs, brooches, and burnt bones. 13. 4 small earthen vases, 2 brooches, burnt bones, and some broken pottery. This is an 1841 tithe map showing the track from Lancing Ring to Steep Down, which passes very close to the temple location. Unlike today, the track continued to avoid the temple site, even though all trace of the building had been removed 10 years before. This 1920 aerial photo is kindly provided by Lancing College. Notice the original path that avoided the temple. 35 graves have been discovered around the temple. It is tantalizing to speculate on what the white dots may be, although agricultural experts have advised this to be simply evidence of rabbit disturbance. Religious sites such as this have been used as cemeteries for centuries. Therefore, if more graves were found, it would be no surprise. The white dots are roughly 2.5 meters in length. There is a distinct concentration near the temple, while the rest of the field has far less. We know the site has been an important ritual location for at least 300 years, and could have been in use for far longer. It has been customary to bury the dead in close proximity to ritual sites as long ago as the Neolithic period. The following text regarding the similar Romano British temple on Jordan Hill in Dorset is taken from the English Heritage website. To the north was a large cemetery where more than 80 skeletons were found, some originally in wooden coffins, others in stone cists. Many different personal objects were buried with them, including pots and combs, jewellery, arrowheads and iron sword. Some of these are now in Dorchester Museum. A magnetometer survey of the field would be very interesting to see. In 1980, Owen Bedwin, assisted by members of Worthing Archaeological Society, excavated the temple site. This is the excavation plan from Sussex Archaeological Collections, number 119. The drawing only shows the area up to the fence that were excavated by Bedwin. Notice the proximity of the Iron Age shrine in relation to the temple, which is only the northwest corner has been exposed during the 1980 excavation. Also note the position of two concrete fence posts that I've used to accurately geolocate the drawing to the ground. The 19th century cart tracks shown in the previous slide are visible in this photo. The temple foundations and shrine would be at the top right, but are not yet exposed in this image. SAC 119 provides a very detailed analysis for the excavated content of the pits surrounding the shrine, but we shall not delve into that today. During the winter of 2014, I made several bicycle trips along the Lancing Down path and noticed that very heavy rain had washed away much of the soil, leaving some large flints exposed. Could this be part of the temple footings? To find out, it was necessary to establish exactly where the temple had been located during the 1980 dig. Fortunately, the concrete posts shown on the dig plan are still extant, and better still, they are visible on Google Earth. A scale is also provided with the plan, and this means everything required to accurately locate the temple on the ground is available. In 2015, the foundations are just visible in the foreground, although some large flints have been removed since 2014. The technique I employed was to extract an image of the plan from SAC 119 and convert this to a transparent GIF, which could then be overlaid in Google Earth using the concrete posts as a guide. The scale was then checked using Google Earth's linear measurement tool and was found to be very accurate. The coordinates of the foundations were then loaded into a handheld GPS, and choosing a fair weather day in summer of 2014, the site was visited to conduct a simple survey to look for any remaining foundation material. The result was quite stunning. Normally, obtaining an accurate fix from a handheld GPS is difficult, but using a long sample averaging technique, the GPS identified the outer walls shown on Google Earth to be exactly coincident with the line of flints on the ground. This allows the full extent of the building to be added to the next slide. Actually, not the next slide, but we'll carry on. The hedge that defines the path cuts through the temple footings. Sadly, no record was made of the foundation material that must have been removed when planting the bushes. It's quite likely the workers had no idea what the material was for. A recent photo from Google Earth Street View. This is an extract from Horsfield's History, Antiquities and Topography of the County of Sussex. We regret to state that from some cause or other, the proprietor of the soil in which these interesting relics were found about 2 years ago caused the pavement and foundations to be grubbed up and every vestige to be removed. The discoverer, James Medurst, was allowed, however, to take away the ancient relics he had found, and they are now exhibited by him at his house in Lancing, which I believe is actually Sompting. This slide shows the plan of excavation from the 1980 dig plus the 1830 drawing coloured in red. Annotated dimensions in metres using post 2 as the datum are shown. The predicted measurements are taken from the 1830 drawing, which has been scaled and overlaid. The measured are derived from the foundation material located in the ground. The idea is to test the accuracy of the 1830 sketch by comparing with empirical measurements taken in the field. Clearly the artist was meticulous in his work, because the accuracy is excellent. An inspection of the northeast corner shows that in 1830 buttress-like features were recorded. Owen Bedwin wrote, "There was no sign of the two buttresses observed by Freer in 1940. This measurement exercise was done without excavation, but simply observing material on the surface or probing it with a metal spike." This image shows how little of the area immediately surrounding the temple was excavated in 1980. Another site visit in July of 2018 revealed a circular patch of vegetation that is noticeably greener than its surroundings. This patch is located just south of the 1980 trench and is north of the area excavated by Medurst. The location and size are indicated by a red circle in this image. This photo of the green patch, which is about 4 meters in diameter, is included. This feature was not identified on the 1830 drawing, and it was not recorded in any of the visitor reports. It is outside of Bedwin's 1980 trench and may have escaped any archaeological investigation, so could be intact even today. Cheap drones were not available in 2014, so this photo was taken by strapping a digital camera to 3 lengths of 3-meter bamboo and operating the camera remotely. Medurst also excavated a Roman temple at Jordan Hill in Dorset. This description is recorded on the English Heritage web page. The Jordan Hill temple was excavated in the 19th century and again in 1931, when the bases of 4 of the portico columns were located. The capital and base of a 5th column were found loose near the north wall of the Keller, and these can be seen in Dorchester Museum. Archaeologists found a well-like pit beneath the southeast corner of the sanctuary wall. It was about 4 meters deep and carefully lined with old roofing slabs. The pit contained 16 layers of ash and charcoal, alternating with layers of roofing slab. Between each of these were the bones of a bird and a small coin. At the bottom was a stone cist containing 2 urns, a sword and a spearhead. One of the coins dated from the reign of the Emperor Theodosius. Pits like this, used for ritual offerings, are a well-known feature of prehistoric Celtic religious sites throughout Europe, and suggest that many of the old pagan cults survived within the Roman Empire under a new guise, even after Christianity had become the official religion. Temples of this kind are known as Romano Celtic because they appear to show a fusion of Celtic and classical religions. But why build a temple here? The presence of an earlier Iron Age shrine from a similar shape and same orientation located just 4 meters from the temple east outer wall undoubtedly influenced the Roman temple builders. However, the expectation is for the temple to be associated with a high-status residential site, such as a villa, and none has yet been identified locally. This is the viewshed from Lancing Temple. It shows that locations such as Chanctonbury Ring, Chanctonbury and Whitehawk are intervisible. A possible explanation for choosing the site is that for some reason a water source, or spring, emanated from the ground somewhere near the shrine. This sounds an unlikely theory, because springs are usually located much lower down, and there is a good example about 1.5 kilometres to the east at the head of the Ladywell stream. The supporting evidence for a water feature includes a bath-like structure found by Medurst on the west side of the temple. A supply of fresh water would be required, especially as its chalk lining is porous. Additional evidence is the watermark visible in aerial photos for many years that extends down the slope away from the shrine towards a damp area to the southwest, where a local archaeologist claims to have found many Roman and Neolithic artifacts. I spent a morning field walking down here and found nothing of interest. The following text is an abbreviated diary extract dated September 30th, 1828. The manner of writing suggests a young girl as the author, although this is just a guess. The full text is available on request. Another day we drove to Lancing Down to see the Roman pavement discovered there a few months ago. We were shown several little graves in which had been found urns with ashes, and also rings, brooches, combs, etc. And there is one large round opening, bricked round like a well, which is supposed to have been a bath. The little short walls that go round have red splashes on them, and some people that came to see the place said that these were sprinkles of blood from the sacrifices, which Papa thought to be all nonsense, and that the marks were only the remains of paint. The tessellated pavement is composed of little squares stuck into the ground, but it is all plain. There is no pattern. The person who showed the place now took us into a little hut that he had built there for a workshop, as he is a turner, and showed us several things that had been taken out of the graves or dug up thereabouts. There were 2 skulls, other human bones, and the combs, rings, etc. mentioned before, also large pieces of spar, one of which was found in each of the graves. He gave me some of the spar and also some shells which were dug up in the place, and some of the little squares of the pavement which are called tesserae. One of Medhurst's finds in 1828 is shown here. It is a brooch showing a horse with a fish-like tail that may be a representation of the legendary Greek and Roman water creature, the hippocampus. Nearby Chanctonbury Ring, just 4 miles to the northwest, has the remains of 2 Roman temples. One is similar to Lancing, the other is roughly circular. Were all these buildings erected merely for the benefit of passing travellers, or did they serve a local villa or 2 that are yet to be found? Chanctonbury Ring is an excellent viewpoint and is intervisible with Lancing Temple. A drawing taken from SAC 139 showing the layout on Chanctonbury Ring. These are the remains of the Roman temple at Maiden Castle in Dorset. It looks similar to Lancing Temple foundations. Now, with the Lancing Temple footprint overlaid, we can see that they have the same dimensions. Could it be a coincidence that the Lancing and Maiden foundations are dimensionally identical? The Maiden Castle Temple was built around 367 AD, so not contemporary with Lancing, and yet so similar. The Roman ditch, or Roman path, or cross dyke, or entrenchment, or whatever else you want to call it, is a real curiosity. This is a LiDAR image with a section applied to show the depth. In 1923, Arthur Hadrian Allcroft wrote, "A formidable fosse of 3/4 of a mile in length, which runs across the south end of Steep Down towards Titch Hill Farm. The ordnance map marks it as a Roman ditch, but the shepherds call it the Roman path, which seems to be a genuine folk memory of its purpose, for it was probably a road, albeit of earlier than Roman date. There was a Roman villa near the junction, whereof the sorry relics, tesserae, small altars, coins, etc., were housed within a neat series of huts, in which the visitor might combine instructions with light refreshments. The huts have lasted less well than did the villa. In places this ditch is 3 meters deep." So, Allcroft's villa should be in there somewhere. Could it be? Oyster shells, animal bones and pottery have been found in abundance around the temple site, which suggests that celebrations and feasting must have taken place from time to time. Perhaps the festival of Saturnalia was celebrated at this time of year. My thanks to contributions from those listed on this slide. For anyone who may be interested, the final slide has a QR code, which, if accessed, will lead you to the result of my research over the last 10 years.